Hi everyone, this is Garrison for Iron Kingdoms at War, and I'm here with a terrain walkthrough on this Khadorian War Memorial, which was a simple little project I put together in the last few days. I wanted to mention that usually on this channel I do a full-blown terrain tutorial, which is a step-by-step. You will kind of watch me make the piece and I walk you through it bit by bit. I want to do something a little quicker this time because it's such a simple project. I thought I'd just walk you through how I went about making this. Because it is really simple, but I think with a really nice result and a nice effect. So, let's talk about this piece. This Khadorian War Memorial is basically styrofoam, foam insulation at its core. And let me zoom in so you can see a little bit more of the piece. Alright, so that's the War Memorial. Now, this is really easy. What you do is you start out going online and finding a clip art or picture and an image search of the Khador symbol, like I found this one. All right, and that becomes your template for your war memorial. Move this out of the way for a second. Then what I did was I got myself a scrap piece of pink insulation foam, 1 inch thick. Right, 1 inch thick pink insulation foam, sorry. And I just put it on top of there and thumbtacked that down. You could tape it down too, actually. Alright, so I thumbtacked it down like that. And then, excuse me for a second, I grab my X-Acto knife. Using this as my template, I just basically cut around this piece as such, and cut around the Khador symbol to create basically the Khador insignia, to imprint that onto the styrofoam. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but just to show you, basically it's probably hard to see, but what we have here is an imprint of that. And I knew when I'd gone all the way around because this this symbol just peeled right out of the paper, right? Because I'd cut it all out. So I traced this with the X-Acto knife. I didn't cut through all the way. This was not the process of cutting the symbol out of the foam. An X-Acto knife is far too shallow for that. And then once you've got that kind of imprinted on there, it's really up to you how you're going to go about cutting it out. You could use, a steak knife. Sometimes work with styrofoam. A different kind of hobby knife. Maybe even a utility knife because that's pretty deep blade. I used a hot wire cutter for foam, just because I could get a real nice clean cut with that. Alright, then what I did is once I had my symbol cut out, I cut a square piece out of the foam, and I put that underneath as the base, of the Khadorian symbol. So it's like cut out this is supposed to be one big giant block of stone that this is cut from. Alright, so the next thing I did was you could just use the styrofoam as a rock texture. That would be fine. I love this stuff here, which is Liquitex ceramic stucco. It's meant for a stucco effect for artists, but really it gives a really nice rock effect. In fact, if you watch my rocky outcropping terrain video, if you want to see how to apply this stuff, go back and watch that tutorial on the rocky outcropping terrain, in which I show you how to apply this. I could use the smooth styrofoam texture, but I wanted this to look more like rough hewn, like it was cut, out of some mountainside, and they moved this symbol to some village where they display it. And that Liquitex stucco gives it a really nice effect. Alright, as far as after I applied the stucco, basically I put it on a matting board or heavy cardboard base, texture that up with my usual sand and kitty litter mixture. And as far as painting, I did a medium gray and then base coat on this stone, then a light gray dry brushing to bring out some of the stone details. In fact, let's zoom in again to show some of that. And then I dry brushed white to bring out the highest elevations of the detail. Alright, so that was basically how I went about it. The snow is my usual mixture of white glue, white paint, and baking soda, just mixed into a blister pack from a War Machine miniature kit, and applied around the edge. And I also did some white paint underneath that just to cover up the edges too. And I also applied some of that baking soda snow, as I call it, around some of the flat pieces of the statue. okay, as well. Now my little detail here you might notice are my candles, which were a lot of fun. They're just kind of an afterthought. And with the candles, what I did was I just took a little piece of wire and I rolled some green stuff around it to create the shaft of the candle. I left a little bit of the wire hanging out of the top, and I took some white glue, which was kind of under a lamp for a little while, so it's getting hardening a little bit. It was a little sticky, and I kind of created the flame from that, just kind of painted it onto the top of the wire. Right, and then what I did was I put a roll, like a donut-shaped piece of green stuff around the bottom of the candle shaft, and I spread that out like the candle had been melting right onto the stone. That's actually my idea. That's kind of how they fix it to the stone. So what's the idea? What's the narrative? What's the lore with this piece? The idea of this piece is that this is in some Khadorian village where they send their young men, their sons and their husbands, and their brothers off to war, and I guess in the Khadorian army their daughters and their sisters and so forth too. And the idea is that in this little village, everybody who has had a Khadorian serviceman or servicewoman die in combat, they go to this memorial once a week and they put a candle and they write a little letter which they affix with some of the wax from the candle to the base of the monument, basically telling the story of their relative and continuing to remember them and talking about the sacrifice they made for Khador. That's the idea. You'll notice I have 3 red candles and 1 yellow candle. Honestly, I did that just as a whim in the beginning. It's kind of the Khadorian colors. But I didn't really. My 6-year-old came up and he said, "Dad, how come there's no letter for that yellow candle? These are obviously from the red candles with the red wax. It's like seals." And I didn't have an answer for him. And then my 6-year-old, this is so awesome, he came up with a story. He said, "Well, maybe that soldier's still alive, so there's no letter for him or her." And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So that's my story now. Is that yellow candle as if you've got someone off in the Khadorian military, a loved one, and the red ones are they've lost in combat, killed in action, KIA. So that's the idea of the yellow candle. Someone's still out there serving in the Thornwood or somewhere in the frontier, which I love that. It's pretty cool that he came up with that, I thought. So that's the basics of my war memorial. You might call this the winter version. You could certainly do this with a spring, summer kind of flocking of static grass without the snow effect. Be just as easy. In fact, I did a destroyed monument with a kind of a summer motif, right? And so this is basically a variation. So with the summer version, basically what you got is you've got your the statue that I've broken by hand to kind of give it a natural decay. Although my story is this was blasted by some Signarians or Laelies or somebody else, and so I have pieces of it that I've taken off and put on the ground like they've been laying there for a long time, and then I did, let's zoom in for this, with green floral wire wrapping around and some birch catkin seeds separators that I painted up. You can get the same thing from Skullcrafts. They package it for you. My parents have a birch tree at their house, so like tons of these birch catkins that I can paint up are available that look like leaves. So I did the green floral wire around the monument, wrapped it around, painted up the leaves to match, and with white glue weld bonds just adhered them to the vine, right? And so that's the idea. And I just like vines on anything that's supposed to be a decaying piece of terrain. I think it gives a lot of character. So in the future, I'm sure I'll do a full tutorial on how to do my snow and how to do my vines. But suffice this to say, for now, that's kind of the basics. So that's my Khadorian War Memorials, Model 1, Model 2, right? So you get an idea. And I'll finish up with some stills, and I hope you enjoy this little project, and I'd love to see people throwing these out on their gaming boards, and even better, sending me some pictures or videos showing me that you made your own, or you did a Signarian version, or a Monolith, or whatever. That'd be awesome. So, or Minifix, sorry. So anyway, this is Garrison, Firing Kingdoms at War, signing off. I hope you enjoyed this train walkthrough, but most importantly, happy wargaming, everybody.